easiest way to get into the meditation state.
Wholeness and welcome to this short talk called Distortions and Dreams. The description I have for it is a 15-minute side glance at making New Year's resolutions by an explanatory barraging of the barriers of distortions and the ups and downs of some dreams. So that's quite a mouthful and it doesn't really roll off the tongue, but what I'm getting at with this is you can make New Year's resolutions, but this is just going to be informing those, right? I'm not going to address that directly. That's why the sideways glance. My intent and disclaimer for this is this could be all very enlightening. It can be rubbish or anywhere in between. What I'm doing is I'm just sharing some things that came across to me on these topics, and you have to discern for yourself and take what's helpful and leave the rest. This was originally inspired by a comment on Insight Timer. Denny Camus does a thing every Saturday. Forgot exactly what happened, but it was like he was mentioning his master, Shifu, that only sleeps like 4 hours a night. Maybe he was talking about being really rested, that dreams weren't really necessary in certain parts of sleep. There's a deep dreamless sleep, supposedly. And somebody chimed in and said, well, what's wrong with dreams? Something around those lines. And I responded to that by, well, it's a tricky English language. There can just be distortions is what I think Denny might have meant. So what is a dream? The dictionary definition of it is a series of thoughts, images, and sensations occurring in a person's mind during sleep. It can also mean a cherished aspiration, ambition, or ideal. Normally wondering about this, what is a dream? What are dreams? What are daydreams? What are lofty goals? Does it mean, if you have a dream, does it mean a lofty goal? What about nightly sleeping phenomenon, things that happen during the night? Does that consider a dream? How does these relate to our relationship with sexual activity? And of course, we've got the all famous American dream, right? So I'll address that back in a moment again. And I don't mean here by Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream, which is actually more of a vision. And we need more of these peaceful visions and resolves and betterment in the world. And so again, the English language is tricky on this, what we mean by dreams. In pop culture, we have things like nightmares, dream a little dream for me, in your dreams, dream on, dream away, living the dream, making your dreams come true, right? And these go into like advertising. And then on the psychological side, we have dream interpretation, right? One thing I was really good about noticing when I was writing down dreams in a journal was the day residue. This is something I could recognize fairly easily, is what is the correlation between the dream material and our everyday waking life? Usually it would be something that happened during that day, and then that would be almost instantly recognizable as showing up in the dream. Sometimes just almost directly or literally, but other times it was just really noticeable where that could have came from what happened during the day. And then we have this whole notion of awakening on the spiritual path, like waking up out of a dream. And I really like this notion. It's almost like a dream within a dream, too. That's even a better metaphor, I feel. And there's this saying that the only thing we don't wake up out of is love. Dream within a dream, I really prefer even over this saying in spiritual circles that, everything is just an illusion. Go take a running start at that tree, run headlong into it, and then tell me it's an illusion, right? So this comes into the two truths. So the two truths are basically conventional reality, what's true in conventional reality, and then ultimate reality. Most of us, until we realize awakening and enlightenment, we're dealing with conventional truth, conventional reality. Ultimate reality can only really be pointed at, hinted at. It's kind of ineffable. There's really no way to directly speak and reveal ultimate truth that I'm aware of. Okay, so now back to the American dream, right? First off, I wouldn't say there's anything wrong with this or ultimately criticizable. It's respecting everybody's decision. By this, I mean, the house, the car, the job, The partner, the kids wake up, go to work, and repeat. We've seen that some of this has been on pause during what we're going through here. My folks have actually done this, and it kind of served them well anyway, at least now that they're retired, right? So the planning for retirement and the retirement. What I want to do about this is wonder if this American dream is kind of a justification for distortions. What do we mean by distortions? I looked up the dictionary definition here, and it says, pull or twist out of shape, the action of giving a misleading account or impression, change in the form of electrical signal or sound wave during processing. So I'll focus more on the first two, although it's interesting. Here I am online and has to deal with electrical signal, sound wave during processing. In the Pali language, moha is the word, and it's often translated as delusion or ignorance. And it's not in the psychiatric sense of delusion, right? And it's one of the three poisons. So it's basically not recognizing the other two poisons, which are greed and ill will. And that's one of them. Another example I like, have you ever been convinced of something that it's got to be one way? You're just completely certain that something is one way. And then later on, you find out it's not that way at all, or maybe it's not exactly like that at least. And I'm sure that's all happened to us, but it's not really our fault. It's maybe there's been misleading accounts giving. Something's been twisted, distorted out of shape, so we don't get a clear picture of what it really is. The other kind of synonyms for this is like a funhouse of mirrors, right? You go in there and you kind of see a representation of what a reflection looks like, but it's very distorted. It might have a huge head, or feet might be huge, or some parts missing or whatever. Counterfeit is another word for distortions. Inversions, reversals, twisting, misrepresentation, partial truths, deception, and unreality. So, and then we go into notions that I won't spend too much time on this. Neg entropy and retro causation. So usually we have entropy, right? Things are decaying, or then causation, cause and effect goes one way, but retro causation would mean the exact opposite. So these can be looked up. This gets into metaphysics and reality constructions and systems. But, how much of this, looking into it, if you want to, actually would lead towards stress, and how much would lead away from it? The historical Buddha, there's a simile of the arrow. And the reason he never really talked much about metaphysics, even though he knew a lot of it, was that it's like a man getting shot with an arrow. And before he wants it pulled out, he wants to know, what was the arrowhead made out of? Who fletched the shaft? What bird did the feathers come from? And by the time you figure all that stuff out, you're already dead from the arrow. He addressed suffering and the cause of suffering, that's possible to end suffering, and then the way out of it. So how do we address these things that are distorted in life? Maybe we're being presented with something that's not entirely accurate, or, it's twisted, or only partial truth is given for all kinds of different reasons. This is where we get into how to address this with recognition, observation, investigation, questioning, study, discernment, and knowing, truth, reality, and wisdom. So it's a lot thrown out there. This is one way to be able to penetrate into a truer nature of our life experiences and circumstances and information we're presented with, and in order to make better choices too. So, when we're just looking at dreams here, this is really kind of an illusory, ephemeral thing, right? Here's just some questions that are at least unanswerable by me. How are dreams made? Where do they come from? How do they come about? I'm talking about nightly phenomena that we can remember when we wake up. And what is the level, degree, and amount of attachment to dreams? Sometimes we want them to, never experience anything like that again. Sometimes we just want more and more. Or sometimes we're just kind of like dazed and overcome by them. Some of them can be quite beautiful. Some of them can be nightmarish. But the underlying reality behind them, how does that happen? Where do these phenomena come from? How do we experience them? What can we do? What is our view and perception of them? How to respond to them, if any? Do we put too much importance? Do we put not enough importance? Would it be okay to dream, or would it be okay not to dream? One of the explanations where dreams come from, that they're something higher than ourselves. But there's also the other perspective where Dreams are kind of like a distortion in themselves. There may be other things influencing us, or they might, or just on a psychological level, there might be debris and things that we're trying to heal from and emotionally clear. Dreams are one way of, I don't know, mixing things together in order to get our attention to see it a different way in order to clear it. I wanted to just leave with this quote here, answering these other last questions I have. So why even pick apart dreams and distortions? Wouldn't it just be easier and safer and more comfortable not to address truth? And this quote comes from Matt Kahn. Truth is a reliable stream of light, faithfully guiding your journey of unraveling, only able to dismantle the parts that cannot proceed any further. When awakening strips us down to our core, even loving ourselves can sometimes feel too much. This is when we shift into the silent I love yous, where each breath you take infuses all sentient beings with the love always transmitted, even without being intended or spoken. I wish you all a lovely, perhaps dreamlike rest of your day, afternoon, evening, or night, and bye now.